Hello, you're watching Proactive London. I'm joined by Lorna Blazer, the CEO of Helium One Global. Lorna, good to speak with you today. You've been asked a comprehensive update on your Rukwa project in Tanzania, and there's a lot to digest. Could we start with the extended well test at Itumbula West? When are you commencing that?
Morning, Stephen. Yes, a lot has been happening. There is an awful lot going on, and we're about to move into a very exciting phase for the company. So in terms of the extended well test itself, we've already started receiving equipment at site, and we plan to start those operations in a few weeks' time. We'll have a couple of weeks of drilling operations to deepen the well further into the basement, and then we'll run the completion. After that, we can start flowing the well, and this phase itself is likely to take several weeks.
And what are you looking to achieve from this, Lorna?
Good questions. I think to put it into context, the DST, the drill stem test that we did on phase two earlier this year at Itumbula West 1 gave a very small snapshot of reservoir conditions. What the extended well test will do is give a much more detailed evaluation of the downhole conditions, as it is performed over a much longer period of time. We'll be testing multiple zones in Itumbula West 1 from both the fractured basement, which is where the well successfully flowed that 4.7% to surface during the DST, and also the faulted Karoo interval. So the first phase of the well testing will involve running a smaller diameter tubing string, and this will allow us to control the different zones that will flow from. And once that tubing string is in place, we can then flow the fractured basement, and we will then temporarily shut off this interval so that we can then test the secondary zone in the faulted Karoo. We'll also be complementing this operation with something we refer to as a production logging tool, which will be run on stickline, and this will give greater clarity on those producing intervals and ultimately flow performance.
You also mentioned the lab results, Lorna. How good were they, and have they given you increased confidence?
Yes, so approaching phase two last year, we were always of the view that we needed to have on-site ability to do real-time lab analysis. In this part of the world, it does take time to export gas samples out of country. And so for us, it was very important to get that secondary verification of what the measurements whilst drilling were telling us. So we did mobilize a field PVT laboratory on site specifically for that task. However, we sent a small subset of samples off to a leading noble gas laboratory outside of Tanzania, outside of Africa, and the results of those have come back, and they confirmed to us that the on-site measurements that we were doing were giving very, very similar readings to those that were measured in the lab. And ultimately, that gives us confidence. That confirms to us that the field measurements are consistently accurate. There was some indications of air contamination, which is quite common when sampling for helium. So the helium concentration potentially could be slightly higher than what we've already measured. However, with the extended well test, immediately upon us, very, very soon, the results of that will supersede and ultimately give us a much more detailed data set going forward.
You're also testing a couple of new fractures. What's the purpose of this, and what are you hoping to find, Lorna?
Yes, we are. So that comes back to testing the fractured basement place. So when we flowed the 4.7% helium to surface during the DST, we know that came from the fractured basement target itself. And this is where we believe the sweet spot is for that all-important release of helium. So prior to commencing the EWT, we will actually be deepening the well slightly so that we can further drill into that fractured basement play, which will ultimately give us the greater opportunity to intersect as many of those basement fractures as possible. And that's where we believe that the helium is flowing from. Geologically, it's a complex network of faults and fractures down there, but they're very much likely to be connected to one another, and therefore enable the helium to migrate up from the deep-seated source.
So everything's ready to go now then?
It is. We're very close now. A huge amount of equipment is coming in from inside and outside of Africa. This is a remote location and a very large logistical project, as we've experienced in the past. We've got equipment already starting to arrive at site, and that will continue to do so over the coming days and weeks, as well as remobilization of crew and personnel. So the team, as ever, have been working exceptionally hard to ensure another timely delivery of this phase of the project, as well as juggling the demands of working up the feasibility study alongside, so that once we've completed that EWT, we're in a position to integrate the results as quickly as possible into that feasibility study and subsurface model, so that we can progress with our application for a mining license to the government, so that we can progress the project going forward. It's a very busy but exciting stage.
And speaking of the government, you've been seen recently with various ministers. How's your relationship in country with them? How's the support you're getting from them?
Yes, definitely. Like any new sector, this is a very important piece of any project. And obviously helium very much ticks that box of being a new sector. I was in Tanzania last week and met with members of the Ministry of Minerals and the Mining Commission up in Dodoma, as well as other various stakeholders, to keep them informed of the project, and talking around developments with all of the great subsurface work that's commencing on the feasibility study and the environmental and social impact assessment that's underway in the field, and also around our view on submitting that mining license application after the EWT. So they're very supportive, which we're very grateful for. They're aware of what we're doing, and very engaged with us, and ready for the next phase of the project.
So are you happy with where you're at the moment, Lorna?
Absolutely. I mean, it's been a huge amount of effort to get to this point. There's a lot of moving parts that go on behind the scenes, but it's delighted to be poised to, at this stage, to be commencing extended well tests in a matter of weeks' time.
I hope you'll keep us posted on any progress, Lorna. Thank you very much for the update today.
Thanks, Stephen.
Lorna Blazer is the CEO of Helium One Global.